Hello, friends. This is Dave Hurwitz, executive editor at ClassicsToday.com, here with, well, the title was really clickbait. 12 excellent conductors who deserve name orchestras. They should lead name orchestras. Well, no. Today we're talking about the 50 greatest Latvian bassoonists, because so many of you have asked for me to analyze and discuss at great length the Latvian bassoon school, and I have amassed 50 Latvian bassoonists who I'm going to have to pronounce, which ought to be an epic all by itself. Oh, who am I kidding? I'm just joking. We've been doing everything conductors, and we're going to keep doing everything conductors for a little while, and we will do other instrumentalists like pianists and violinists. Bassoonists, it may take us a while to get there. No disrespect meant to all performers on that noble instrument. So anyway, we'll get to the Latvian bassoon school, I guarantee it. But in the meantime, 12 excellent conductors who should lead name orchestras. Conductors who are really, really good, but their careers, for some reason, either they're just starting, which is fine, or they didn't get where I think they deserve. They should have gotten, because they're marvelous. Absolutely marvelous. And here they are, one at a time. First, Theodore Kuchar, who we've talked about in a bazillion reviews here. He spent a lot of time with the National Symphony Orchestra of Ukraine, and he's just good. I mean, you could practically do no wrong. I mean, he's recorded Nielsen cycle in Czechoslovakia that was surprisingly fine. Czech music, Eastern European music, interesting repertoire, terrific Mussorgsky. I mean, he's done all kinds of wonderful stuff, usually for Naxos or Brilliant Classics, the budget labels. But boy, is he a talent. And it would be great because he knows a lot of repertoire. It'd be really wonderful to see him in charge of a major orchestra doing some really good programming, because my suspicion is that he really would do some marvelous programming. And I don't mean just weird stuff. I mean, he would understand how to put together a well-integrated and effective concert season, which is a big deal. So Theodore Kuchar is number one on the list. Next, JoAnn Falletta in Buffalo. Another fabulous conductor. I mean, and a questing spirit. She's done so much interesting repertoire. And it's not just that she's done interesting repertoire up in Buffalo, but she's done it really well. Like, she's got the best Ilya Muromets symphony out there. I mean, do you know what an achievement that is? To take that big, flabby puddle of Russian goop and make it something and have it really work. I mean, her recordings of interesting repertoire, everything from Schrecker to like Duke Ellington, they've just been splendid. Absolutely splendid. And I've seen her live a couple times. I mean, she's a real talent. And maybe she's happy where she is. I don't know. But she certainly deserves a shot at the big time. Absolutely. And after JoAnn Falletta, well, here's one who's been around forever. Jose Serebrier. Remember him? Now, he's also more recently done, stuff for Naxos. He was a Stokowski acolyte. And so he did the Stokowski Bach transcriptions and other things, but he also did a Glazunov cycle and a Dvorak cycle, and in Bournemouth and other places. He's a very reliable and interesting conductor who does tons of music, almost all of it well. And he's also the most self-promoting human being I've ever met in my life, and I mean that in the jolliest possible way. But I mean, he's hey, let me tell you about me. Yeah, he ought to, because no one else is going to do it. That's the thing these days. I mean, some of these guys, they're fantastically talented, and they don't get enough press, or they don't have the management, or, they haven't sucked up to the right people. Serebrier is up there in years, but has he ever made a bad record? I don't know. I mean, he's made a couple that didn't interest me too much, but by and large, he's extraordinarily reliable, and really, really interesting musically. He's also a composer of note, which adds a whole extra layer of fun and potential to his programming. So Serebrier is just somebody that really deserved more attention and more opportunities than he got. And I don't quite understand what went on there, because he conducted all the major orchestras and he did it very well. So there's that. Then we have Nathalie Stutzmann. Well, she's a beginner, sort of, kind of. Stutzmann is a bit of a risk because she hasn't made that many recordings, but she's in Atlanta now. And she did a really good New World Symphony in Dvorak American Suite that was released on Erato. And she also did a first-class Beethoven piano concerto cycle, leading the Philadelphia Orchestra. She's an incredible. She was a bassoonist, by the way, originally. Then she became an alto, and she made lots and lots of records and sang in lots of operas. I mean, she's incredibly musical and gifted. And I think as a conductor, she's going to do some really exciting things. I could be wrong, but it would be. And Atlanta is don't make no mistake, is a very, very serious position. Major orchestra. In fact, a couple of people on this list, got where they were on this list because of the work they did in Atlanta. They're a fabulous orchestra. So she should be quite happy there. But I think she's a real talent to look out for based on her entire life's work so far, which is mostly as an alto soloist, not as a bassoonist. But boy, she's good. And also in the female category, some of you have said to me, give me your list of the best female conductors and all that stuff. I don't do it that way. It's the best conductors. If they happen to be female, they're female. If they're not female, they're not female. I mean, besides, these days you can't really tell anyway if someone's female or not. I mean, they could be switching constantly. So what difference does it make? Susanna Mälkki. Well, she had the Helsinki Philharmonic for quite a few years. Every recording I've heard by her has been terrific. Those Bartók recordings on Bis, and she does a lot of contemporary music. That might militate against her getting a major post in an American orchestra for sure. Ich poo. We had Pierre Boulez. We've done our penance. Now we don't have to ever have another one of those again. But seriously, she's very, 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 very good. And I want to hear more of her, lots more of her on disc and live. So I'm pushing for her. Let's hope she gets something. She lands someplace really, really exciting. Cristian Macelaru, the Romanian guy. Well, he's been doing some recordings lately, Saint-Saëns symphonies, and he just did Rachmaninoff symphonies, and he's done, he seems really together. He's at WDR right now in Cologne, and they sound terrific, and he's exciting. He's very, very good at that sort of, late romantic, the popular repertoire that everybody seems to go for these days. But, he also can do Ionescu, and he deserves an opportunity to do the Ionescu symphonies with a good orchestra, because he did do them and they didn't come out too well. Well, nobody's perfect, but he's a person to watch. He's exciting, and he's got a real melodic and dramatic and structural sort of gift in that hairy, chest-thumping romantic repertoire area. His Saint-Saëns symphonies were just beautiful. So there's a guy who could possibly pop up in a major position sometime soon. He seems to be on the move as a conductor, so maybe he's got the right management and people out there. Here's another oldie but a goodie who had never got the attention he deserved, Claus Flor. Now, Flor is sort of like, well, how do you describe Flor? He has that big box of Mendelssohn stuff, which is terrific. He started a Martin Symphony cycle at RCA, which never went anywhere. Every time he's shown up, there's been something really interesting and musical going on. And he definitely hasn't had the career that I think he deserves, but he's kind of a German standard guy. And he would be, he's sort of like one of the last in the tradition of like Kurt Zanderling and the cranky German people, Otto Klemperer, those people. He does that music. He made some beautiful recordings for Bis in Malaysia, of all places, Dvorak symphonies. I haven't heard anything he's done that hasn't been really solid, and often musically very interesting. But he hasn't caught on. He just did bunch of the Mahler cycle in Milan. Remember? And they recorded half of them, and I don't think they have all of them. I don't know. But I talked about the box. I mean, he really knows how Mahler's supposed to go. He could be really, really interesting in one of those Mahler places where people like that sort of thing. I just think that he's a terribly neglected talent, and people should consider using him more, if not hiring him on a permanent basis, because he's got the chops. My goodness, and he's been around for a long time. Another one who's sort of been around and sort of on the fringes, but every time he defringicizes himself, he does something splendid, is James Jud. Now, James Jud is a British conductor who lives in New Zealand. And a lot of his recordings have been made in New Zealand, but he also had the Florida Philharmonic or whatever it was he did, like a Mahler 1 and a Harmonia Mundi. James Jud, another conductor who everything I've heard has been really good. I mean, he even out-Bernsteined Bernstein just about in the Jeremiah Symphony in New Zealand, of all places. He's done a lot of interesting repertoire, and I just find him to be very compelling as a talent on the podium. I don't know if he's interested. He seems to have his life fairly well organized. I could be totally wrong, but he's out of the limelight, and maybe intentionally so. But he's a voice that I've always wanted to hear more of. Somebody I always thought should have more opportunities to do stuff, because everything that he did was really, really good. So James Jud. Andrew Litton. Oh my goodness, of course. Thank God for Europe and Scandinavia, because he had the Dallas Symphony and he was fabulous there. And he made some great recordings for Delos. He pushes all the buttons. He does all the Russian stuff. He does Mahler. He does contemporary American stuff. He would be perfect with a major American orchestra. But major American orchestras don't want major American conductors. They want European conductors. I cannot figure out why. I just don't understand it. So now Linton is in Bergen, if he's still there. I think so. He's made great recordings for Biss. He's in peak form. And who's to say why? How do these things happen? I don't know. But he's a splendid conductor. He really is. And he deserves a shot at some really major exposure, in my humble opinion. After Andrew Litton, whatever happened to Yol Levy? He made all those recordings in Atlanta for Telarc, and some of them were simply stunning. They really were. I mean, he did all kinds of good stuff. He did Stravinsky, and he did Mahler, and he had Telarc. He had splendid sound. I understand from people who worked under him that he's a little bit of a cold fish as a conductor, that he's very, very literal in what he does. And that may be true, but his performances have been really, really terrific. Particularly those Telarc recordings. Oh my goodness. So Levy deserves a shot for sure to come back and do something. And then Gerard Schwarz. Yes, good old Jerry Schwarz, who has the big box on Naxos, and he did all that stuff on Delos and was with the Seattle Symphony forever. Boy, is he good. He is so talented. My goodness. He did great Rimsky-Korsakov. He did great American music. He did terrific Ravel. He did terrific Richard Strauss. He does really good Stravinsky. I mean, it's all very, very good. And he does damn good Brahms on top of all of it. So why isn't he in charge of a major orchestra right now? He should have gone from Seattle to something bigger, but he didn't. And I understand that, the situation when he left Seattle was kind of tense. It may have been, but, we don't care about that. As long as he hasn't molested somebody, he should really have a shot, right? I mean, isn't that how it works these days? And there aren't that many people out there who haven't molested somebody. So, anyway, Gerard Schwarz really deserves it. He deserves a shot. That Naxos box of stuff he did is just marvelous. And it's only a fraction of his total output. And then here's somebody you might not have thought about, but I got him from Biss as well. Kees Bakels, the Dutch conductor who did really, really fine work with the Malaysia Philharmonic. And some Vaughan Williams symphonies and things on Naxos. And so far, what I've heard of him has been very, very positive, and I would like to hear more. I think he deserves to do more. I think he could do more. And I wonder what he's doing and why he's doing it and where he's going and what's happening. So that's the list. 12 conductors whose discographies, whose recordings thus far seem to point to genuine talent, seriousness of purpose, ability, competence, consistency, all of the things you want, plus some real imagination and insight. So there you go, major orchestras. What are you waiting for? Get those contracts going and keep on listening, friends. We'll get back to the Latvian bassoonists later, I promise you. Take care.